Whoa. Hi, everyone. Got things a little topsy-turvy today. I am traveling a bit and with one of my kids who had surgery. So I am chatting to you from where her space is. Let's get my charts up. Whoa. Where be the charts? Oh, this is lovely. There they are. Can you see them? Ta-da! All right, folks, there we go. My goodness. All right. Thank you so much, Trading Trumpet. Welcome, everybody. I am here in the lovely but oh so rainy city in Tampa, Florida. And, yeah, let's just jump right in. Let's jump right into what we are seeing in general in the world tonight. We've got a 50-year mortgage, as if a 30-year mortgage didn't feel daunting enough. We now have 50-year mortgages. For those of us thinking that that's going to get us into a house, just remember that you're probably going to pay 4 times the amount that your house initially got charged you for, but whatever it is, there we go. Sitting in the space where we are right now, the charts are telling us that the futures are going to gap up, right? So we've got a gap up in the futures, and we got a lot of stuff going on in general in the markets. So first things first, obviously, those of us that trade, we don't live in a cave. I mean, we are thinking about the things that we're doing in the common sense of the word. And so we do want to understand what's going on outside. But the fact of the matter is we just need to look at price action. And so something very interesting happened last week. We had a fade of price action and every index was down. But this downward flow underneath its, what's this moving average we have right here? Oh, that's probably an anchored one. Underneath just the relative 14-day or 20-day came and kissed those, now sitting right on that edge. But the instruments inside of each one of our indices said, hey, we're doing just fine. And what we see is a rotating out of the Mag 7 into other elements that have not done as well. And if you follow me on Twitter, it's Anne Marie Trades, and I just tweeted our Topstep event here, and you'll notice that I put some images up that said, hey, pay attention. If you look at the majority of those instruments inside, the overall flow did not dip down. Only elements of the Mag 7 dip down. And so essentially, that's good news. It doesn't mean that prices aren't overvalued, but if you're looking for some sort of crash, I'd say start thinking about some other stuff. Okay, if we take a look at the E-mini S&P, we've got, I like to talk about the gamma walls. We've got a gamma wall and call resistance at 68.50. It was at 69.50 last week when we were talking together. So it tells you that they're moving that price action down. And that's something to pay attention to, right? We're noticing they're compressing that event. And if we take a look at the put wall, oh, for heaven's sakes, that put wall was at 68.50. That's where the call wall is now. So you know the price action is drifting downward. And so the weekly call wall right now is still 6,700. That's where the put wall is. And the 0 DTE walls for tomorrow, they're going to look like the 0 DTE put wall is probably, they need to do that. They have planned for a bounce. The put wall for the 0 DTEs are 6,800, and the 0 DTE, I've got the 0 DTE call wall up there for you at 6,850, and that's really what we want to stare down right now. So that being said, that's what we'll take a look at. We are expecting a gap. The gap is fairly substantial, and so we should see a move potentially up into the 50% mark, into the 6,800 area. Let's suppose that that's what happens. Let's think about very quickly, what are we going to do when price action opens? What is our thought? Well, we've got an anchored VWAP from way back when, back there, and we've got an anchored VWAP from a pretty good volume event up at the top. I'm going to move it up to the high of that candlestick, and you're going to see that this anchored VWAP here, let's do this. Let's move in to the hourly chart now that we see how things are going. We're going to see that, wow, that's even better. But what I'm going to do is move that anchor off, and we're going to just stare down the expectation of the move. I would not be surprised that it jams right up into the call wall in the overnight. That's going to be important for you to think about, how do you want to trade? Now, we could come in and we can go, hey, I've got a bias, this is what I'm thinking, so on and so forth. At the end of the day, you're going to have to decide what you want to do, but my philosophy is always very simple. It's all about order flow, and it's where did they spend the most time on Friday. So let's draw a box there, right? Let's draw the box that begins really just outside that 930 area and comes down into, whoops, that just gave me a little lie. There we go, right? So we have a low edge, 67.36. That's also the anchor of that particular VWAP from the very high that we've seen over the past several days. And we popped right at resistance into the close. It's very likely that we gap into this region at the high of 67.90 and then try to walk our way back up into the prior areas of congestion. Remember, we say this all the time. Price moves to where the inventory is, and when the inventory gets there, price will move away from it again. It's compression and expansion, and compression and expansion. And literally, it's the trader sitting around saying, you know what? I am going to guess that this is a good place to buy. And if a lot of other traders agree, they're going to sit around and collect at that space. Now, as Topstep traders, the number one thing that we're taught to do is manage our risk, right? So I'm going to be, I know Bruno's here. Thank you so much, Bruno, for being part of things. Yes, thank you, Jay. Thank you, Jay, for that. When we stare this down, we think about, okay, where were they collecting? Here's the thing. If they pop up over the top of the 67.86, your thought process might be, oh my gosh, it's, where am I going to get in? They're very likely going to go into the next area of heavy congestion. And that is really a box that is many days wide in terms of rotation, and that is between 6,812 and 6,850. All right, so that being said, nice to see you, Jay. I appreciate it. I just, you know me and Slack. It's up, just not looking at it carefully, so I need to. All right, so let's jump into the NQ. Let's look at the daily. Same sort of thing. Look at this. Looks terrible. But if you look inside of the NASDAQ, everybody didn't do this badly. Only the Mag 7. So, as I mentioned, this is a good place for the traders to find themselves as they are offloading off of those great big behemoths that have been running the market for months, and they're saying, let's go over here. Let's ring the register on all those great plays, and let's look for new plays to see. So a lot of us play the NQ, and I say play, it doesn't mean that trading is not serious business. I had a conversation once with someone in a public forum, and they said, how can you call this a game? I mean, we know it's a game, right? It is a game. It's the greatest game in all the world, but that doesn't mean it's not serious. Oh yes, government shutdown. That's what they were talking about early this morning also, right? Or mid-afternoon. Well, who knows if it's going to come to pass, but that's also a big thing for us to take a look at. If we stare down the gamma walls for tomorrow, we're going to look at the 0 DTE walls for tomorrow. We've got 25,850. Last week when we were together, it was 26,050. It's now 25,850. So we're going to change that. What's very interesting is to look at how it changes from week to week, right? Almost where the put wall is. I find that to be very interesting also. The put wall for tomorrow is 25,000 even. So these guys are 800 points apart. That's fairly wide, right? And so as we stare this down, we know it's going to be a gap up. Where is the accumulation going to sit? I would suspect to the top of this wall, near 25,520, to the bottom of heavy congestion, 25,200. So my thought is this. We have the Fed that lowered the rates and are set to lower rates again, potentially. So that's going to be liquidity moving in. We're seeing all kinds of ways that the administration is trying to pump liquidity and drive the mechanisms that work for how industry moves. But if you stare down inside, what we're noticing is people who normally put big bets, here comes the open, look at where it opened, right at the top of the congestion zone, of the main congestion zone right here in the space, right? That's actually about the 50% range of the entire event. But what's beautiful here, what's absolutely beautiful here, is that you can see where they're willing to bid up the price and then stop dead in their tracks. This is a very important element of understanding order flow. It's how you can stare it down and go, you know, if I were a betting man, I'd say they're going to try and pop right into the 50% space of this box, right? If you don't like the box, we'll draw the one that's got the 50% ratio in it. Let's put that on there. And you can see it comes right into the top of that heavy congestion. I do love this so much that the market is showing us the footprints of where it's likely to go, Where is that 50% marker? I know it's here. Come on. We'll leave it be. Okay, so this is what we're staring down. Now, you're ready to trade. You're like, I'm ready to go. Which way would you take? Would you go long or short? And how would you come to that decision? So, if I were a betting man, of which I'm neither, but if I were going to take an educated guess on what the market is going to do next, I'm going to draw the line at the NQ at 25,410. Okay? And I'm going to say, okay, if it breaches that area, I'm going to collapse into a tight time frame, and I'm going to buy it up over the top if it pulls back very shallow and it does not lose the top of the box. So here we are. Here's the top of this box. Smaller box inside the bigger box. But this small box here says, here's our battleground. If we think the traders are going to continue up to the north, buying here would not be unreasonable, right? Market in... Okay, that's weird. Let's try that again. Market in pre-open status. All right, could somebody help me with that? I see it moving. Let me go here. Hang on 2 secs. Oh, here we go. Let's try that. Let me see if this does this here. Looks fine. Nope, it says market is currently closed. Ruh-roh, we have Houston. We have a problem. All right, everybody. Looks like we've got a little bit of an incident. If you guys can help help me with that again, that would be lovely. No, I actually went to a completely different space and logged in. All right, hang on 2 secs. Let's, you know, the glitches, the glitches, the glitches. All right, let's do this. Let's get another browser open. And then let's try another. Yeah, I'm not getting that. All right, let me try my XFA. All right, hang on. Sorry about that, folks, but, you know, I'm smiling. It's all good. Listen, tech happens. It is a thing. Let's see if we're getting orders going in the XFA. Hang on. See if anything's playing out there. I know it's just my face here. Let's see. Nope. Nope. We have a problem, Houston. We have another problem today. So, orders aren't going through for me at this particular time. So, I will wait for the powers that be to tell me what to do. And in the meantime, we can talk about the things that we really want to pay attention to tonight. We want to make sure it won't let me gamble. Listen, Kian, I love that. That's funny. That's very, very funny. That's good. Good news that ABC is reporting that. So, yes. So, I guess what we'll do is we'll say goodbye since we can't trade. And oh, someone says they can place an order. Let's read what's happening here. Yeah. I hope it's assumable. Yeah, Dan, we do hope that 50-year mortgage is assumable. Why were we expecting a gap up? That's a great question, Charles, if you're still around. The gap up is there because everyone's super excited about the shutdown coming to an end. Some more money printing from tariff flows. Who knows? Who knows? Sometimes people just gap up cause. I appreciate you being there, Jay. So let's see yes, I see a note from my commander-in-chief. Let's see what she says. All right. Thanks, everybody. Listen. We're going to stop early tonight. It is what it is. Got a little of tech woes. They'll be on it. And we'll be ready to trade prime time. We'll keep you posted. And I thank those of you that came in to spend time with me. It really does mean a lot to me. And so I will see you all very soon. All right? Take care.